Interesting. Maybe this will allow me to. Hi, Joe.
Hi,
How are you?
good. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
It's good to be seen and not viewed, right?
Yep.
All right. So I'm just looking for the box on here that tells me the stuff that I can. Where did it go? There's a way that I can share my screen because I want to be able to share my screen. And
Mine's right beside the chat box, down at the bottom.
um, who can share? Oh, there it is. Thanks.
Yep.
Let me just see if I can get this thing working. Okay, so this is the one that we're going to want to do. Where'd it go? There it is. All right, so now you see my screen and you see me too, right?
Yes.
All right, so if you guys who are there, let's see, if you can, where'd my chat thing go? Man, this is just messing me up. It's now that it changed positions. Pause. Oh, there it is. All right. So you guys, just so you know, when you're here, if you click on your chat screen, you'll see two all panelists. You can click on all panelists and attendees. Wendy, it's good to see you.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. And let's see. Gail, it's good to see you. You can, if you want, you can type a message up in the chat box just to say hello. Same thing. Good to see you, Heather and Kathy and Marion and Tara, Todd. All right, so I guess it's about time to think about getting going here. My plan is to talk for about maybe 10, I don't know, 15 minutes, something like that. Just going over a little bit of information about allergies. And then what I'm going to do is open up to some of the other panelists so that they can share their responses or you know what they've noticed from them in the past. And I just want to see one thing before I get moving. Okay. All right. So first thing I want to do is welcome everyone to the webinar. And what I'm going to do is just go over a little bit about tonight's agenda. The plan is we're going to talk about a little bit about what's an allergy, what kind of things are people allergic to, what some of the statistics are out there that might surprise you. How does the general medicine treat allergies? Is there a way to treat without medications? How does allergy desensitization work here? And then we'll talk to some of our other panelists, and then we'll have a little bit of a little bonus at the end. How's that? So let's see. How do I get this to just start playing? Let's see if I can go right here. All right. So, all right, I talked about that. We can move on. All right, so what is an allergy? Well, first of all, here's what we know. We know that your immune system is responsible for defending the body against bacteria and viruses. And remember, we've talked about this so many times about how important it is for your immune system to be strong, especially with this COVID thing going on right now. The big key that we want to make sure is that that your body is upregulated so that your immune system functions at a much higher level. And we've talked in the past on some other webinars about, you know, vitamins and how adjustments boost your immune system. And so right now, that's the key is making sure that our immune systems are functioning. But sometimes when our immune systems go a little bit haywire, we end up having substances that are known allergens, and they react with our body and they cause an allergic reaction. And so, you know, how does that happen? Well, you can inhale it, you can eat it, you can touch it. And the allergens, when the energy essentially of that allergen gets within your energy field, it can cause reactions. And so a lot of times doctors will use all kinds of, I say doctors, medical doctors and chiropractors, other people will do all kinds of different things in order to find out, you know, if you're allergic to this and how to do it. And they might inject something on you, they might, you know, scratch you, take blood. There's a whole lot of different ways of doing it. But we're going to talk in a few minutes about how we do it. So what kind of things are people allergic to? Well, when we talk about foods, you know, the top 8 foods are soy, dairy, peanuts, beef, chocolate, shellfish, eggs, wheat. I guess that's more than 8 there, but that's in grains. There's a lot of different foods that are out there, but a lot of people don't think about the fact that, you know, pets, I've had so many patients that have come in here who are allergic to their own pets, whether it be their hair or their saliva. And I can tell you a story later on if you're interested. Seasonal, things like cottonwood, hay, grass, tree pollens, molds and weeds. There's so many different things that are out there that people have problems with. And Wendy will probably talk a little bit about that later on down the line. Chemicals like medications, you know, there are so many people that die from anaphylactic shock from taking medications that their body freaks out with. Formaldehyde, dry cleaning chemicals, gasoline. There's so many different chemicals that are out there that we don't do well with. And we have toxins like aspartame, food dyes. I mean, how many people have an allergy to like yellow food dye or red food dye? MSG. MSG is huge. NutraSweet, bee stings. There's a lot of people that have issues with bee stings, and they have to have their EpiPens. Heavy metals, things like nickel, cadmium, gold, tin. Anybody know anybody that has, and you feel free to type it in the chat box if you have anything that you want to ask a question about as we're going here. But anybody ever know of people who have had issues where they wear a chain around their neck and, you know, their skin turns green and then they get all red and you know, pustules and everything. So there's a lot of different chemicals and heavy metals that our body will react to. Some of the symptoms, like the typical symptoms, the easy ones, you know, the runny nose, the hives, the itchy spots, nasal congestion, rash, scratchy throat, watery eyes. Those are the easy ones. Those are the ones that, you know, when they're not major ones. But where you end up with the problems is when you start having problems with abdominal cramping, tightness in the chest, diarrhea, problems swallowing. Of course, we know that some people, if they eat peanuts or shellfish, they can't swallow. Nausea, dizziness, vomiting, weakness, wheezing. I mean, you can read them. There's a whole bunch of different things up there. But one that I failed to put up there as I'm looking at it was behavior changes. And a lot of people don't realize that you can have an allergy to, let's say, corn or something like that. And instead of having itchy skin or something like that, there has been, I've seen videos of people when they were exposed to corn or wheat or different things where the one little girl wanted to commit suicide. I mean, it just really messed her up bad. I saw pictures of little kids, not pictures, videos of little kids when they'd eat some wheat, and then all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, they're running around like a wild man, and they're beating on their mom. They get violent. So all allergies are not necessarily only something that you see. Oftentimes, it can be a behavior issue as well. So I just wanted to put that out there because most people don't think about something like that. So what's a food allergy? Well, they call it a medical condition where you have exposure to something that triggers that immune system that we talked about. That immune system attacks a protein in the food, and then that triggers a reaction called an allergens, okay? And the symptoms of the allergic reaction to food, as we just talked about, can be anything from an itchy mouth or hives to, you know, your throat tightening and being not able to breathe and end up with an anaphylactic shock reaction. And so when you get an anaphylactic issue, that's bad. That can cause death. And some people, you know, have to have those EpiPens, and those EpiPens are not cheap. I don't know if you knew it or not, but I remember last I saw they were like $600. So people who have issues, especially with bee stings, is a really big one, or shellfish or peanuts. A lot of those are the ones that carry those EpiPens. And actually, this is old. I apologize. It's actually up to now 50 million Americans that have food allergies. I was just reading something last night, and it didn't kind of coincide with this one, but it was interesting because 1 in 10 of adults and 1 in 13 children, and people think, well, why would kids have it? But it's a problem that we often have, that, you know, it's just some sort of a reaction that our immune system crashes essentially on. And if we think about the fact that kids' immune systems aren't as developed yet as adults, it makes it makes it easy to understand why they might have more issues. Roughly 7.8% of the people over 18 in the US have hay fever. Now, that's just hay fever. Worldwide allergic rhinitis, that's the problems with the face and the nose, the congestion, up to 30% of the population. Sensitivity to foreign proteins, up to 40% of the population. Adverse drug reactions could be up to 20% of all hospitalized patients. And it oftentimes, again, the hospitalized patients that end up with a drug reaction, it can cause them death. My kids never had any issues with anything, and so they didn't really ever get penicillin and stuff like that. But my oldest son ended up having a sore throat, and we went in, and I said no. He goes, Dad, I got a track meet. I want to run this weekend. And this was on a Tuesday. So I said, all right, I'll take you in. And they did the test, and they said, nope, he doesn't have strep, but, you know, it would be a good idea because, you know, this is the quick test, not the 24-hour test. So why don't we look at just giving it to him anyways? And I'm like, I'm not into that. I don't want to do that. And my son begged me, please, Dad, let me do it. Well, guess what? The next day, his face blew up, his lips got all big, and we found out that he's allergic to penicillin. So even though it wasn't something we wanted to, and he missed the track meet, which he really wanted to go, he missed that track meet. So anyways, and we found out after that, he was at a track meet, and they were selling, at Mentor actually, and they were selling snow cones. And he ends up having a problem with red dye snow cones now too. So 30% of food allergic kids have multiple food allergies. Of food allergic kids, peanuts are the most prevalent, followed by, what did I have here? Followed by milk and then shellfish. We're almost done with this. Every 3 minutes, a food allergy reaction occurs that sends someone to an emergency room. And caring for kids with food allergies costs about $25 billion a year. Isn't that crazy? $25 billion a year. But think about not the fact that, you know, how much, not just Benadryl, but, you know, so many people are taking, I'm trying to think, I can't, and one of you guys want to pop in, you're more than welcome to pop in and say, but I can't think of what it's called, the nasal congestants they're constantly taking. I'm brain dead right now, so sorry about that. I can't think of, it's not coming to me, but. All right, so in any case, Flonase, Zyrtec, thanks Tara, I appreciate that. All right, so how does the general medicine treat the allergies? Well, first off, typically they use Benadryl. If it's something worse, then they'll go more, but they tend to believe that there's no cure for food allergies. We'll challenge that in a minute here. But once there's been a serious allergic reaction, or they call it anaphylaxis, then they end up having to use the EpiPen, and that's something that you know is the only effective treatment, and it's got to be done real quick. About 20 to 25% of epinephrine administered is in schools with kids who didn't even know they had an allergy or had a reaction to it. So you know, you never know when something like that's going to show up. They also talk about elimination diets. Now, elimination diets are great. It's a great way to look at and go, hey, I'm going to try this food, and I'm not going to try this food for, like, say, dairy. I'm going to go off of dairy or wheat. And what you do with that is you stay off of it for 2 weeks, and then you add it in. And when you take it, all you do is for that day, you can eat as much as you want, but then you're not allowed to eat it for another 3 days. And the reason is because we want to see, what type of reaction are you having? So you can have an immediate reaction where you get a headache or something like that, or you can have a reaction that occurs like the next day where your stomach feels lousy, you know, you feel like you got the flu for a day or so. So it can show up several different ways. A lot of the times the allergies resolve, but a lot of times they don't. So, and finally, allergies to peanuts, tree nuts, fish, and shellfish are generally lifelong. Now, anaphylaxis, we talked about that. What does it cause? The stridor, or the shortness of the breath where they're wheezing, they can't breathe, the swelling. And depending, like my son who had the swelling lips that turned all red, your heart can race. So there's a lot of different ways that the anaphylaxis will show itself. A lot of times people will say, well, how do I know if backed up. How do I know if I have an issue with a cold or an allergy? Well, the main thing to remember here is that typically when you have a cold, you're probably going to be you could be a little bit achy, you could have a little bit of sore throat, but the big thing there is that the mucus is dark and thick, where typically with allergies, it's a lot thinner and it just runs out. So that's the typical change there. And with the allergies, that can last for a long time, whereas typically a cold will go away quickly. And a lot of you guys who are patients of mine know that there's several different nutrients that you can take that we will talk about at times, and the cold will go away almost like within a day or two. So drug allergies. We talked about the adverse reactions being 20% in the hospitals. Worldwide, they find that 20% of fatalities are due to anaphylaxis when there's a drug response. All right, so we're getting to the end of this here before we let our panelists talk. So at our office, we do something called allergy desensitization. Now, there's ways to, and I'm going to talk about that actually in a second, but the ways that you treat allergies when that a lot of people will work is the elimination diet that we talked about. But the most common ways to find allergies are things like skin tests, or the elimination type, or blood tests. Everybody here heard the ERISA test. That's a great way to take a look at what you have. We use kinesiological muscle testing. Now, it's interesting because we know that when I say kinesiological muscle testing, for those of you who don't know, it's where we have you hold your arm out, we check to see if you're strong or not. And then we'll put the issue that you have an allergy or sensitivity to it, and we'll put it up against the allergy point. And if it makes your arm weak, then we know that we've got an issue. And I have tested, babies, I've tested, I would say probably thousands of patients by now. But I remember in particular, one little baby who the mom was telling me, oh, she's got these issues. And I tested her. I'm like, well, she's got problems with several of these things. And her mom's like, well, we just spent $150 on this new baby formula so that she could have it. And I tested, I said, she's allergic to this. It's not going to go well. And she called me later that night. She goes, okay, so that I just picked it up when I brought it to your office. And she goes, and I can't believe it. She's already having problems with it. And so it was supposed to be hypoallergenic, wouldn't cause a problem. But when we test it up against the body, it's really specific for you. And when we've tested people with the allergies that they show up with the kinesiological muscle testing, and we compare those to a lot of times when they do the ERISA tests, it's almost like a 95% correlation. So with the allergy desensitization, the goal is to reharmonize the body to whatever that allergen or that offending agent, whether it be a chemical, toxin, food, plant, whatever it is, we want to reharmonize the body to the energy of that. And it actually allows you to then move forward and be able to be around that, whether it's a pet or whatever. We're able to actually to have those substances again. Now, I will tell you that I don't ever, because of the issues with people having anaphylaxis, issues with shellfish, with peanuts and bee stings, I don't ever say, oh, here, go eat a peanut, go do that. The goal in that case is to reduce the effect of it so that it doesn't cause a problem, but I don't ever tell people, oh, go do that. Now, the rest of the stuff that doesn't cause the anaphylaxis, whether it be, garlic or onions or the dog or whatever, hey, 25 hours later, let's get going. So what we do is we go through a set of tapping series, which some people call me Dr. Voodoo, and that's okay. But we do this tapping where we start to introduce the whatever the offending agent is to the body. And then we use a laser. We go through a whole bunch of different acupuncture meridian points to light those up. We then go through a tapping procedure on the back where your body will, we take you through a way to stimulate both your autonomic nervous system, both your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system at the same time. And then we lock it in with a laser at the heart, and then we retest to see if the body goes strong. And 99% of the time, the body goes strong and we're in good shape. And then we just say, hey, stay away from whatever it is for 25 hours. And then we'll have you come back and we'll recheck it against you to see if it totally cleared, because a lot of times it totally clears. And sometimes, as Chad will probably tell you, it took a little bit to clear it. So we have some people who have gone through allergy desensitization here. And I asked if they would be willing to talk a little bit and say, hey, I'll tell you a little bit about my story. Unfortunately, Ted can't be here now. So there was a death in the family, so he's not on tonight. But does anybody want to go first? Chad, Chris, Joe, Wendy, any of you guys raise your hand if you want to go first? Chad, is that you?
Yeah, I'll go first.
All right. So this is Chad. Chad's going to tell you a little bit about what's going on with him.
So I have been allergic to peanuts, tree nuts, and seeds for my entire life. And my reactions have varied greatly. Seeds would basically just make my mouth itchy, although to the point that I really couldn't eat a sesame seed bun on a burger or anything like that. And then I kind of would have a different reaction for all of the nuts, ranging from, just maybe some vomiting all the way up to full anaphylactic shock with hives and stabbing pains in my chest. I've been to the emergency room more times than I can count. And I've had 2 emergency room doctors tell me that if I'd have been 5 minutes later, I wouldn't have made it.
That's crazy.
And so I started coming to Dr. Sopchak, oh gosh, probably about 3 years ago.
I was gonna say 2 or 3 years ago.
Two or 3 years ago. And at first I just had him treat me for the seeds, since that was the mildest one. And to my surprise, it worked. It really worked. I'm able to eat sesame seed buns. I can have poppy seeds now. And then we started going after some of the more difficult ones. It's been a kind of varied success. I've had success in all of them. Everything I've been treated for has improved pretty drastically, although I still can't eat all of them, all of the nuts like I would normal food.
You mean like your almonds?
Pardon?
Like your almonds?
Well, the one exception has been almonds, which was really interesting. He treated me for almonds just one time, and I went from pretty severe vomiting to absolutely nothing. And I eat almonds almost every day now. I have them in my oatmeal. I have them salted as a snack, and it's been really amazing. It's been great too, because I have a sweet tooth, and that's in a lot of finer pastries and things like that. But even for the really more severe ones, walnuts would always be a trip to the emergency room. My face would swell up. I'd turn dark red. My throat would almost swell completely shut. And I got treated for walnuts, and I accidentally ate some brownies with walnuts in it. And I got a very sore throat. And at one point, my face did swell a bit, but my throat didn't swell at all. And about an hour later, it all went away, and I was fine. And I mean that, and I never vomited. And I mean that would have been a probably an ambulance trip to the emergency room beforehand. Many of them I've had to be treated for multiple times. I think I'm correct in saying I'm your most difficult patient.
Yeah, you were the one that actually taught me some new things. Because before, what I used to be able to do was when we'd clear something, they usually cleared. However, Chad was the first person that I'm like, okay, so he's the one that actually taught me how to figure out, by working with him, how to grade whether it was actually gone or not. So we started changing the way we muscle tested since I had to work with Chad, because the one time I tested him, like, he tested good for it, but he's like, no, it's still not great. And then I'm like, okay, so let's rate it on a scale of 0 to 10 or 12, whatever it was. And sure enough, he tested as like a 3. I think that was that coconut, maybe was the one, or I can't remember.
I think it was peanuts. I think it might have been peanuts, because peanuts, I think you treated me for peanuts a lot. I've gotten to the point that I actually have eaten a Snickers bar. It's still not 100%. Like, I'd eat it and maybe my stomach would be, a little achy and my mouth would be just a little bit itchy. But, before, if I ate one peanut, I'd throw up multiple times. So.
But the other thing too is that, we haven't done this in a couple of years, and it's
been over a year. Yes.
Well, that's right. Yeah, you did come back one time last year, I think, if I remember right, maybe.
It was in last time I was there was in the fall of 2018.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I live far away, so it's a pretty solid hour's drive, which is the only reason I don't go more often. But it's been absolutely remarkable, and it's given me a lot of confidence that I can. Other than the almonds, I really don't eat these, and the seeds, I don't eat these foods on a regular basis. But I'm just so much more relaxed knowing that if I accidentally eat these things, I may get sick, but it's not going to kill me. It's not going to be that rush to the emergency room. So I've always wanted to travel more, and I feel like I can finally maybe start doing some overseas travel without having to worry about every single thing that I'm eating.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chris, you want to unmute and let Avery talk a little?
She's shy all of a sudden,
She's shy. Hi, Avery.
Okay, so I'll start talking and then she'll probably chime in. So for about 5 years or more, now, she hasn't been able to eat eggs. There's different things that have. So she loves eggs, loved them, but all of a sudden could not eat them. She was having stomach aches every day. There was other things like kiwi and tomatoes that were bothering her. But she, again, stomach aches every day. Before school, after school, she'd wake up in the middle of the night with stomach aches, and we couldn't figure out anything. And we had heard about Dr. Sopchak, and so we went. And I think it took 2 times to clear her from eggs, but she has all kinds of things that apparently trigger her. But it's very interesting because now she eats, this morning, was it yesterday or yesterday? She had 2 egg sandwiches for breakfast. She doesn't like the yellows, but she likes the whites, totally eats them, all good. She can eat kiwi now. She can eat tomatoes now. Anything else you want to add? I mean, it's literally unbelievable to me. I literally cannot believe it. And we're gonna bring her back to do a few more things, but I mean, it is totally amazing.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Avery. Joe?
Yeah.
Wendy, sorry you're at the bottom, Wendy, so.
That's all right.
The first time I came to you, it was more for pollen allergies. And then the next year, I think I came back and it ended up being, we tested for everything. And I ended up having a whole bunch of food allergies and that I didn't even realize I had, but they popped up. And then I think one year I came back and didn't have anything. And you suggested coming like in March and August, because that's when the pollen allergies all start acting up. So I've been doing that about yearly, and things have been going good. And it's nice not having to take the over-the-counter medicine every day just to go outside and have a running, come inside and have a runny nose and sneezing constantly. And
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, so the interesting thing though is that I try to tell people, because we're supposed to try to stay away from things for 25 hours. If you get cleared for something or you're having issues, we want to try to get you in before the season hits hard. And the season's getting ready to hit, or is hitting now, because it's harder to clear things when you're already in the middle of a major issue. It takes more, and it's a little harder to do. So, all right, Wendy, you get to talk now.
All right. I bring both of my kids. As little kids, they played baseball and ran track. So we were outside all spring, and both of them would end up with swollen eyes and runny noses. And it's hard to run a track meet with your eyes closed. So, and I was doing the everyday over-the-counter drug before practice, and I hated it. I hated having to do that. So we tested them, and yeah, they have seasonal allergies and grass and mold and anything that was outside, they're pretty much allergic to. So then we just started every year before the season started, they would get cleared, and they have not taken any allergy medicines in probably 4 years, I think. I think it was about 5 years ago we started it.
Yeah, I can't remember, to be honest with you. It's been a little while.
And it's crazy. I don't know how it works. And I'm the one that calls him the voodoo doctor. Because I don't understand how
you and many others, Wendy.
how tapping your fingers clears allergies, but it works. And I had a friend whose son was lactose intolerant who brought him, and he now eats ice cream every day of his life.
Huh. Well, and it's not necessarily that, sometimes the people who can't deal with the dairy or whatever, they have a sensitivity to it. And sometimes there's an issue with not having the enzymes. And so I never tell people, oh, we're going to fix this, because sometimes it's an enzyme issue. But if we can usually clear whether it's dairy or milk or whatever, we can usually clear those pretty easily. I'll just finish with one other thing that we had a patient who had a big job to do, and it was a 6-figure job, and he was a contractor, and he had to do all the trim work and everything in this house, and the woman had 2 cats, and he came in the one day, his eyes are all puffed up, and he's like, I'm not going to be able to do this job. There's no way I can keep going back there every day, because I'm just I can't do it. So I told him to have the owner take something and stick it in the cat's mouth, let it chew on it, so we could get some saliva from each of the cats, put those in separate plastic bags, and then we got some hair from each of them, and put those in separate plastic bags, and we cleared him. And a couple days later, he went back to work there and finished the job, never had a problem. So there, the same thing happened with a guy who was allergic to whatever he was doing, putting in tile floors. His hands, where the skin was just peeling off his hands. And same thing, a couple of different treatments, and he was back to work without a problem either. Also, so in any case, it's amazing how it works, and it can really help people to get through the allergies, so they don't have to take medications and things like that. But I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you guys for coming in. And so my parting gift for you is anybody who wants to come in to get it done, whether it's your first time or the third time or whatever, the next time you come in, just say that you were on the thing. Some of you guys, I know who you are, but just say that you're here, and you get a 20% off your allergy, just for coming in and checking on us and learning a little bit more. So. If anybody has questions, feel free to type them in the chat to see, if anybody has any questions for any of the panelists or for me or for anybody, go ahead and just type something in, and we'll be happy to answer anything that you've got. I should actually look under question and answer too. Maybe somebody put something in there. Anybody? Nobody's got questions? Gail was just in here this morning. Tara, kids with food allergies, what's your failure and success rate? I'm going to tell you that food allergies on kids, I can't give you an exact rate, but I would say it's got to be in the 90s. I really haven't had any issues that I can think of with kids who have had food allergies that we haven't been able to clear. I mean, a lot of them clear on the first time. I remember one little boy, he was 5 years old, his mom brought him in, he couldn't eat anything with wheat. We cleared him, and then she sent me a picture a couple of days later of him eating a sandwich with a big smile on his face, just like Chris sent me, showed me a video of Avery eating a big egg sandwich about last month, I think it was. Is it covered by insurance? Well, so here's the thing. The insurance will probably cover to get tested with an ELISA test or something like that, but they don't, you know, they're not going to see this as an insurance reimbursement. There's no code for allergy desensitization because, to be honest with you, there's not a whole lot of people in the country that do it. You know, there are, you know, it's around, but no, it would not be insurance reimbursed. Let's see, Todd, can adrenaline emotion cause allergic reactions? Yes, and I'll tell you what else. So not just emotions, emotions oftentimes can make you more hypersensitive because it changes how your adrenal glands function, and your adrenal glands are the ones that deal with all stress. And because your adrenal glands are so in tune with and so they have so much in common with your immune system that when your adrenal glands start to tank, then a lot of different things can happen. It also can happen from people with bad gut. If your intestines are trashed, it makes it a lot easier for those proteins to get through what we call leaky gut, and the body just starts to react to them. So interestingly enough, though, since you brought that up, I've had people that I have desensitized from cold. You know, some people, when it gets really cold out in the wintertime, their face swells up or whatever. We've actually taken ice packs and put an ice pack on them and desensitized them to the ice pack. And that worked really well for them. So it was kind of a cool one. So hopefully that answered your question, Todd. 6-year-old son has multiple severe allergies. How many visits would be needed? Oh, good question. No, we don't just clear one allergy per visit. And it's not going through how much does this cost per session. Okay, so here's how it works. So it's $60 for the initial evaluation. And what we're doing is I've got like, I don't know, 400 things, I think, vials of different things that I can test with to see what makes the body go weak or that you're sensitive to. And then when we find different boxes that have things, we'll go through rows of them and just pick out which ones there are. A lot of people come in and they say, hey, I know I'm allergic to, like, I have people bring in their dog hair all the time, horse hair, you know, horse saliva, and they bring it in separate bags and we test them up against it. And, you know, then we clear it. As far as, and then, so the initial evaluation is 60, follow-ups are 30. And then it's $10 for each thing that we clear. It's as far as how many will go, it's hard to say. Chris, I think we did about 5 or 6 of them on Avery the one time, right? And the most I've ever done, I had somebody come in, I had a whole family that came in from Columbus. And 2 of the kids, I was able to clear 14 things on each of them that day. I mean, that's the most I've ever done. The least has been 1. And with me, the very first thing that I got cleared was chicken. And that was the only thing that I could get cleared that day. So when we test your body, we actually put whatever it is. It's the stuff that I have is in vials. If you brought stuff in, it would be in a plastic bag. And we would have you hold it, and I would test you against your point and see if you still go weak. If you do, I keep adding if you want. Or some people say, look, I only want to do 3 things. So I let them, all right, here's the stuff. You pick which ones. They'll say, well, I'm going to have chicken tonight, so let's do beef today, and or whatever. But it's hard to say how many. And as far as how many times it takes, I would say about 70% of the time, maybe 75% of the time, it only takes 1 clearing. You know, Chad, I don't know. Apparently almonds, you said we got through in one shot, but a lot of them, you know, it took sometimes with him. He was, like I said, he was tough. And the sesame seeds, I feel like that took four times. Does that sound right?
Sesame, I think sesame was 2, but I think we did peanuts like 5.
Did we? Yeah.
It was a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was a major allergy for you. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of those that, again, if somebody has that, and to know that, okay, I shouldn't eat it, but if something has it in it, I'm not going to die. I mean, that's a huge peace of mind. You don't have to stick yourself with an EpiPen, which costs $600 every time you do that, and then head to the emergency room for another $1,200 visit.
Yeah.
So, let's see.
Yeah,
Anybody?
Avery, we did 5 each time, and everything cleared on her the first time except the eggs, and that took twice.
Eggs, okay.
So,
So
and
we
that
cleared,
was, I mean, eggs was a real sticking point for her. So.
right, and so out of 10 things, 9 of them cleared the first time.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're happy.
Let's see. Right. This. Why is this not more well known or recognized? That's a good question. I learned it, gosh, back in 2003 when I was looking for something else to do because I felt like just doing the chiropractic wasn't enough for me because I didn't feel like I was helping people who came in with other issues. And so I got into the whole wellness part of nutrition, emotion, you know, allergy and all that. And allergy, sometimes if you don't clear allergies on some people, they don't get better. And so they can have a continued, like if you're coughing and sneezing all the time, you might have neck and upper back problems all the time. And once you start, if you clear that, then a lot of times, you know, it's really cool. I won't, back in 2008, I think it was, I was on the news. They came and they did a story on us. And it was put out for some reason, toward like 6 or 8 months later, they put it to the national news. So I had people calling me from Arizona, and my aunt called me from Illinois going, oh, I just saw you on TV. So it was crazy. There were people calling me from Canada, all over the country that were calling, trying to find out, all right, well, who else does this? And unfortunately, I don't really know other people that do it. There are other methods out. I don't know how well they work. I know that when we do this, it works really well. So I see another question. How would you go about testing overcoming the adrenal issue you spoke about? Probably the big thing there is I would probably support the adrenal glands to make sure that they're upregulated and see if she still had the issues, the allergic reactions, you know, at that time after her adrenal glands got upregulated. An easy way to do it would be to take her, if you have a blood pressure thing at home, you take your blood pressure, have her sitting there and relaxing, or even laying, doesn't matter, relaxing there, and then take her blood pressure, and then have her stand up and take it again right as soon as she takes up. If it drops down, then that's a major problem. That means her adrenal glands are exhausted. If it goes up by more than 5 or 10 points, you want it to go up by 5 points. If it goes up like 20 points, then she's highly stressed. So it could just be that she needs adrenal support. Anybody else? Any of you guys panelists have anything else you want to say, or anybody else have anything? I thank you guys for coming. I appreciate everyone, especially you guys taking time out of your night. You know, Wendy and Chad and Chris and Joe, taking time to help people out. Because you know what, you guys' stories makes this a lot more real. You know, people, they say, oh, well, you do this muscle testing, like Wendy, you know, Dr. Voodoo. When I do the muscle testing and you're doing some of the tapping and we're hitting different spots with lasers, people are like, that's crazy. How is that possible to work? But it really does. Last but not least here, will food allergies cause constipation in kids? It can cause constipation. It can cause diarrhea. Yes, it can be. I'm not going to say that that's what the cause is, but it absolutely can cause constipation in kids. There are other things that can cause constipation in kids. More likely might be that they don't have enough enzymes to break their food up. But yeah, or that they don't drink enough water. So, but yes, it can as well. Again, thanks, guys. If anybody has any questions, feel free to email me or call the office. We'll be happy to answer anything. Again, thank you so much, Chad, Chris, Joe, and Wendy for coming on here, and everybody else, thanks for being here. Have a great night. Keep healthy and safe, and God bless and good night.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
I would say, I know that we're breaking this up, but I would tell anybody who's skeptical, don't be afraid to try it. This is awesome. I mean,
I
I
ditto
tell
that.
everybody. What was that?
I ditto that comment.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
agree.
You did know it.
Yeah, you have nothing to lose.
I
You really
tell
don't.
everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
Except your trip to the ER, right, Chad?
Right, exactly.
Or your money,
Yeah.
paying off the hospital bills. All right, thanks again, guys. I appreciate it. Have a great night, and talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya. Bye, Joe. Bye, Wendy. Bye, Chad. Bye, Chris.
Bye.